The September 2021 collaboration Mixed Media Monthly will be with us soon, and I thought it would be fun today to walk you through how I build my collections and what inspires me. This month the designers were inspired by a Phil Collins quote, "In learning you will teach, and in teaching you will learn." Our collection is called We Learn From Each Other. So if you stick with me, at the end of the video, I'll show you some examples of how I incorporated what I'm going to show you today into the new collection. So let's have a look what we've got here. This is my traveller's notebook. This is where I do my creative journaling, collage spreads. And for September 2021, intertwined with the learning theme, I started out, as I normally do, with a creative journaling spread with a little mini collage. I put some words down about how my daughter Mackenzie, who's 4, how she doesn't have any fear working on a blank page, not like Mommy does. She just randomly creates a colour palette and starts mark making and lets everything just evolve from there. So I did a quick journal entry about how I learned from her free spirit and her fearless attitude. So that was where I started with this, and how this interlinks with the learning theme that we're all working on this month. So once I had my words down, I stuck down vintage bus tickets. I've got a little, this is actually a bus ticket. It was one of those vintage rolls. It's just been torn a little bit, and I use that for my date stamp. I've got some tissue paper here from a sewing pattern, I think it was, and that's just been machine stitched down and stamped on. And then underneath we've got, I think it's some magazine paper. We've got more layering going on down here. I've got these lovely Chamille Garden Chinese papers, which is nice translucent paper. It's great for collage. My washi tapes, because I'm always inspired by nature, so I always go for the green foliage and add to that again with some stamps. Some punched paper cutouts here that I've collaged down. You'll find this particular spread as one of the background papers in the main subscription kit as a background. And then what you'll also find is textures, paper pieces, additional papers and elements which I've created from my stash of papery here. The next thing that I did was I worked with, I'll just find the pieces for you, a vintage recipe. You might be able to make out some of the ingredients here. It was one piece of paper. It's all since been cut up. What I like to do is start out with a sheet. Just try and find most of the pieces here to show you. Start out with a sheet and just mindlessly create. I find it really difficult to have kind of like a composition in mind and to know exactly what I'm doing. I much prefer to go abstract. So I just layer down with some sticks. I've got some Inktense water soluble sticks. I'll just start laying down some colour. I'll start spraying with water, moving it around a little bit with a brush, getting some watercolour pencils or some regular pencils and making some marks, maybe gluing down some painty papers or some of the collage bits, and then add in some finer lines with some stamps. And then basically I just fold it up and I just cut it up into little squares, which changes the dynamic of the piece and creates like little miniature pieces of work, and the results then I find often become unexpected. Once they're cut up into individual squares, they're like little mini artworks on their own, aren't they? So some of these you'll find scanned and extracted into paper pieces as elements in the collections. Some of them you'll find blended into other elements, and you'll find some of them collaged together and photographed and manipulated into background papers for the main subscription kit and my add-on collection. What I've also got here are lots of beautiful ledger papers, which I've used the same technique with this. This paper was torn out of a beautiful old book that I purchased, and again, some of the pieces have been left as is. Some of them have got little stampy marks on them, some of them have got the painty bits on them, mark making, and then same, cut it up into rough squares or rectangles, some of these are, and again you'll find these featured in the paper collection, the paper pack. You'll find some of them as elements. I've got one here that's been made into like a little stack. That's one of the elements in one of the kits. You might see some of these just vintage bits of paper. Again, they'll probably be manipulated and you'll see other things added to them, but some of those are in the kit as paper pieces. And then these little offcuts, which have just come off the end of the rectangles or the squares. You'll find some of these have been made into stamps. You'll find some of them as paper pieces. You might see some of them on the background papers. And then, you know it, you're going to find lots of thread, and you'll find some machine stitches, some painty papers. And I've even included some of these that don't have any paint on them, so they're a little bit plain. This one is an element in the kit. So if you stick with me for a little bit longer, I will show you now how this journaling spread, how that looks as a background paper in the collection. I'll show you some of these, can't find that little stack. I'll show you some of these elements that have been created, and I will show you some background papers and some of the elements that include these little, I call them collage fodder, these little collage fodder stash that I've happily created here for you. It's a really fun collection this month. I had so much fun working with the girls again and creating some extra packs for you so that you can create your own art. I've created some pages myself, so I'll be sharing those with you too. I hope you enjoy the videos and seeing seeing all of this paper basically. You know that I love paper, and if you didn't know that, you certainly do now. And I will see you soon.